Advice Realty, and today in our eviction series we're going to cover the 7-day notice to pay or quit. This is definitely the most popular notice being used. This is the one that says, you didn't pay me my rent, and now I need you to either pay me or move out. You can use this for anything payment related. An example would be in your lease, if it says a tenant is responsible for the windows being broken. Someone breaks a window, you tell the tenant you owe me $200. The tenant says, no, I'm not paying that. You can make that part of rent, and now it can be an evictable offense as unpaid rent. So make sure in your leases you have all this covered so that any damages that are done by the tenant can be used this way. It's very explicit. You have to write it in the lease that way so that it covers you, and then it'll protect you in all cases. 7-day notice is used by itself. It's not followed by anything. It's not preceded by anything. It's a standalone notice, and it's 7 judicial days. If you post it on a Monday, you've got to go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, skip Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That would be 7 judicial days. It's almost 2 weeks. You'll go to the constable's office at 301 Lewis, 301 Clark, not 301 Lewis. The courthouse is at 200 Lewis. So at 301 Clark, constable's office, and you'll have them post your notice for you. You cannot post your notice yourself. They need to do it. It's between $40 and $45. It's a cost plus mileage, so it depends where you're at in the city with the distance, how much it's actually going to be. They'll let you know when it's there. The following day, the constable will take the 7-day notice, will post it on their door. That is when the timeline begins for 7 days. Not the date you show up to the constable's office, the date they posted it. The following day is day 1, and you'll go accordingly. At the expiration of that lease, you'll have to contact the constable to get the notice sent to you. They'll email it to you. Once you have the notice in your hand, you will then use the complaint to the court document, which you can download on the Justice Court website. Complaint to court, fill it out, your 7-day notice posting, and the lease. Put all of them together. They must be in that exact order. Complaint, 7-day, lease. You'll upload that to the Odyssey system, which is what the court uses to download your documents, look through your file, and see if they're willing to grant you an eviction based on your non-payment claim. If the court finds in favor of you, which they will if you've done your paperwork correctly, then the court will let you know on the U.S. Justice website that yes, this has been deemed an eviction. Order will be sent to constable. Constable, then you'll contact them. They will go out the following day after you've contacted them and post a 24-hour notice on the door for the tenant to move out. The tenant then has 24 hours to get out. During this time, anywhere in there, the tenant can come and file what's called an answer. That means they saw your 7-day notice, they don't want to leave, or maybe they disagree and say they've paid. They can request a court hearing. They will get to go to court for free if they want to. The court will then set a date for you to come, usually within a week, and stand before the judge and say, here's why I think they should be removed. The tenant will tell their side. If you have all your paperwork in order and everything's okay, you will win that eviction. As long as you did it legally and legitimately, it will not be an issue. Typically, the tenant will claim hardship, or they'll say, but I have the money now. If the 7-day notice has expired, you do not have to take the money. You can turn it down and say, I still want the eviction, I want them gone. If you want to take the money, you can. You can do it right there in court and work it all out. But landlords need to really understand that. They think that once they go to court, if the judge says, well, okay, but they have the money, that you have to take it. You do not. Once the 7 days expires, you do not have to take that money. You can turn it down. The thing you don't want to do is take a partial payment. Let's say they owe $1,000 in rent and they give you $500 and you say, you didn't pay me the rest, I'm going to evict you. You have to return that $500 to them to be able to evict them. The judge is going to say, you accepted a partial payment, and we see that as you've agreed this is enough for rent. Do not take a partial payment. I have seen cases where people have made partial payments, signed paperwork saying, I understand this is a partial payment, and I understand I owe the rest, and I will be evicted for the rest. I've done that paperwork, and I have had that stand up in court. But that's up to a judge to decide, will I let that stand or not? It's kind of a coin toss. I've done it, and it's worked out. I would suggest don't take any partial payments at all. Make sure you get your eviction if that's what you're seeking. So at the end of all that, you will be granted the eviction. The constable comes out. 24 hours later, the constable comes for the lockout after that. Make sure that you're there with either a locksmith, yourself, or someone representing you to change the locks. The locks must be changed for the constable to complete the lockout. They'll remove everybody. All their belongings, if they're being removed, will probably still be in there. You are responsible to hold those belongings for 30 days. You have to. It doesn't have to be in the unit. You can move them to a storage facility or wherever you keep stuff, but you have to move it and you have to use what they call your best care in moving that. So the tenant will contact you and say, I want my couch, I want my TV, I want whatever it might be. They have to reimburse you for whatever the costs were in moving their stuff. You can't say it's $50,000, you can't make up some number, but let's say you had to rent a storage unit and you hired 2 guys to move it. Those figures, you add up and say, okay, I've got $300 in moving your stuff. I need that $300 before you get your TV. Perfectly legal, perfectly legitimate, and make sure you do that because it will cost you money to do this stuff. The tenant has to pay that before they get their belongings back. At the end of 30 days, you can do anything you want with that stuff. But don't just take it out of the unit and throw it all away the next day because most of these tenants are familiar with eviction. They've done it before. There's enough information out there. There's a lot of pro-tenant stuff, and it's going to tell them how to come back and get you. And you will end up in small claims court, and they will claim that all these valuable things were in this pile of trash. And you just don't want the headache. Keep their stuff for 30 days, let them default on it, which they will, and just be done with it. But that's how you do a 7-day notice and get someone out for non-payment of rent.